Hi Amy, here's the feedback for the reading part of the mock exam that you did recently. And for question 1 you've scored the full 4 marks, so that's a good start. Moving on to question 2, where you're asked to comment on how the writer uses language to describe the effects of the storm. You started off saying the writer uses emotive language to describe the effects of the storm, but you've not really given us any examples of the emotive language. You then say she starts by telling us what exactly to open Alex. When you're given the quote, noise from the storm, wind lashing the trees, rain on the rooftop and thunder. And you said this short list uses some nouns and the adjective lashing. Unfortunately, lashing is a verb. And you've gone on to say to create the scene that Alex was seeing at this frightening time for him. And when you're analysing the language, you need to give more depth to your answer to gain higher marks. So you could have said, I mean, it's good that you picked up on the lashing, but you could have said that it sounds like the wind is whipping the trees around and using it to try and destroy the earth. It's not really enough just to say to create the scene that Alex was seeing at this frightening time for him. You have to try and explain the effects that the writer is trying to have on you. What is she trying to make you feel or understand what Alex is feeling? Your next paragraph, the sentence, he turned on the light with the sensation of being adrift in the boat and pushed closer to the bulk of the large dog sleeping beside him, is a longer complex sentence that uses the boy's imagination to bring across the fear he felt. This being why he pulls in closer to the dog beside him. So again, you've not really said what the effect is on you, the reader. I'm not sure this is really talking about the effects of the weather particularly either. You'd have been better focusing on possibly the roaring Pacific Ocean or spilling in furious waves against the rocks. And you've underlined pounding, or you've underlined furious as well, and tangled, but presumably you didn't get time to do those, but I think they would have been a better choice than the one about the dog when you've been asked to comment on the effects of the weather. So if we look at the mark scheme, and if we start off at level 1, offer simple comment on the effect of language. Well, I think really it is only simple comments that you've made. You need to give more depth to your answers for that one. Select simple references or textual details. Well, you have selected a couple of quotes and made simple use of subject terminology not always appropriate. Well, again, as I said, you've not given any examples of the emotive language there, and this is a verb, so again it's limited to level 1. With 2 out of the possible 8 marks. But had you given a little bit more depth to your analysis, then it could certainly have been in level 2, if not level 3. Moving on to question 3, where you're asked to comment on how the text is structured to interest you as a reader. I don't think you finished this question, so you've not written very much detail here, so I think it's 1 mark for this paragraph here, because you mentioned at the beginning, so you've used simple use of subject terminology, you've given the quote there, and you've offered a simple comment on the effect of the structure. So it starts by introducing Alex, and it draws the reader in by not giving enough away to fill in the blanks. So yeah, 1 out of 8 for that question, unfortunately. Moving on to question 4, where you're asked to explain to what extent you agree with the statement that the text shows Alex is struggling to cope with his mother's illness. You've done much better on this question, Amy, so well done. You've started off by saying that you strongly agree with the comment. It doesn't seem to be coping. So what we're looking for here, if we look at the mark scheme, so if we look at level 2, so make some evaluative comment on effects on the reader. Well, I think you've done that in several places throughout. So you said giving the impression that he usually would applaud his father's efforts before his mother came ill, and then the conversation that his sister initiates also confirms how Alex isn't dealing well with his mother's illness. He becomes defensive, replying with "Shut up, Nicole." And you said how the sentence about him being angry with everybody confirms how little Alex is dealing with the situation. Deep down, he's obviously feeling lost and probably doesn't understand fully what's happening to his mother, how much this is impacting on the family and everyday life. So yeah, you've definitely made some evaluative comments on the effects of the reader. Make some response to the focus of the statement, and you've done that because again, you've referred back to it all the way through. So here it also confirms how Alex isn't dealing well with his mother's illness, how little Alex is dealing with the situation. Alex isn't coping well. Okay, so you've done that one. Select some appropriate textual references. You've used some good quotes in there. So this is the one that seems to trip most people up, show some understanding of the writer's methods, and you have actually done that. So you've said here, in a negative mood, as the writer describes with the sentence. So describes is kind of explaining the method that's been used. And then here you've said that you're implying that the writer uses a conversation to show that Alex isn't dealing with his mother's illness. And then you say here again the sentence, which is another way. So I think it's so I would say you've definitely covered all of the criteria for the level 2, and I think you've just about crept into the level 3 with some of your clear and relevant responses to the focus of the statement, and evaluates clearly the effects on the reader. To get higher marks, need to do a little bit more work on this one. Shows clear understanding of the writer's methods. You need really to hit the examiner over the head with it. So try starting some of your sentences with the writer uses. So where you've said here, the conversation that his sister initiates, you could have said the writer uses the conversation to show. And then where's the one you said the writer describes? Yeah, no, that one's fine. So you could say again, the writer uses the sentence. Yeah. And then in this bit down here, you've stopped explaining how the writer's methods to show you that Alex isn't coping. So you could have said that the writer lists lots of things that his mother used to do. So actually you've used a quote here, so if you'd have just said the writer uses a list and then gone of things that his mother used to do and given you quote, and then so then you've got that bit there, so that would have really made it clear for the examiner that you are showing clear understanding rather than just showing some understanding. But that's it, a really good answer for question 4 there. So I think it's 11 out of the possible 20 marks for this question, so well done for that one, Amy.